question is that this bill be now read a second time. I call the honourable member for Gippsland.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. And I've spoken in the past in relation to this issue of same-sex marriage, and I intend to remain consistent in both the tone and the content of my contribution here today. I'm opposed to same-sex marriage, but I recognise that there are very strongly held views to the alternative, and I acknowledge that this issue does have the potential to become quite divisive in the wider community. Firstly, Deputy Speaker, in relation to the tone of the debate, and I take a lead from the previous speaker, I think participate in the manner in which I think the debate should be held, in a very respectful manner, and it's my intention to continue to participate along those lines and listen to both sides, because I think there's a real risk in this debate, as I referred to earlier, that could become very divisive in the community. I think some on the left in particular have deliberately used inflammatory language to portray people who don't support same-sex marriage as somehow being bigoted and homophobic, and I think that's a terribly unfair way to allow this debate to denigrate. There was a great example, actually, Deputy Speaker, on the weekend where the Nationals held their state conference in Bowral, where a motion was narrowly defeated on this very issue. And it was a very mature and a constructive debate, and it's fair to say that perhaps a lot of the younger members of the party were advocating for change, but it's not an issue that I think neatly divides along on the basis of age or on any other basis. So I've had the chance to ask a lot of people in my electorate for their views, and I'm often been surprised by their comments and the level of passion they have for this particular issue. Many people, Deputy Speaker, are quite ambivalent about this issue and consider there are far more important issues for this parliament to be considering at this time in our history. But however, there are others who have very passionate views on either side, and I understand that. So I'm not trying to belittle the issue, but it's fair to say that a significant number of people who contact me on this issue want us in this parliament to focus on other things. And that's perhaps where I come to my conclusion here today, that I'm not sure how much longer we can continue to have this debate. The issues, I believe, have been well and truly canvassed, both in this place and in the broader community, and surely it's time to bring on the vote. I think it really is time for this parliament to have the vote. Bring on the vote and let us see where we stand on this particular issue, get a clear indication of where we stand in this, the 43rd parliament, on this issue, and then move on to the other issues that people in the community, I think, regard as being of greater importance to their lives at this very moment. So, Deputy Speaker, in relation to the substance of the issue, I do support the recognition of legal rights within same-sex relationships, but I don't support the proposed changes to the Marriage Act. And I think that is the only politically consistent and the only position of integrity that I can take, because it's the exact position that I took to the last general election and it's the position I took to the people of Gippsland. I think it's an important point to make, Deputy Speaker, that while it's also entirely consistent with the broader view of my party. We took a position to the voters at the last election of being opposed to same-sex marriage, and we are consistent in that application, that policy position, in a very open and transparent manner. There is no surprises in that regard in relation to the national view and to my own personal view. Now, if we wanted to adopt a different position, I think it would be incumbent upon us to take that back to the people who elected us in the first place. And I think that stands in stark contrast with this Prime Minister and the breach of trust in relation to the carbon tax. Now, this Prime Minister explicitly ruled out introducing a carbon tax prior to the last election, and only weeks or months later had a change of mind, but didn't take it back to the people of Australia. And that is where this Prime Minister and her fundamental breach of trust has caused so many problems for the current government. And I think this issue is a great example of the contrary view that I've taken, where I took a position to the people of Gippsland. I'm remaining consistent with it in the interests of the openness and transparency you need to show as a Member of Parliament. So I think if we're going to restore community confidence in the integrity of our democratic system and to restore faith in the parliament and the people who serve here, this is a very important principle to remember, and one I intend to adhere to whenever it's humanly possible. Now, as I said, I had a position at the last election campaign in opposition to same-sex marriage, and I'll continue to maintain that position for the remainder of the 43rd Parliament. Now, I certainly don't intend to change my mind on this issue, and even if I did, it would be after I had given my constituents the chance to vote at a general election. And so I say again, Deputy Speaker, I think we should bring on the vote in relation to this issue. We need to have the vote and move on to other issues of importance to the Australian people. Now, I acknowledge, Deputy Speaker, that this is an issue where members of Parliament clearly can't please everyone in their electorate or in the broader Australian community. There will be some people in my electorate who will be very disappointed with my view, and others who will be very pleased. And I fear we may just have to agree to disagree on this particular point. But I would like to reassure those who may be disappointed by the position I'm taking here today that I will certainly continue to work in support of other efforts to improve outcomes for gay and lesbian people in the Gippsland community, but I won't be supporting changes to the Marriage Act.
The question is that this bill be now read a second